But the university has continued to mismanage every element of their business. They mismanaged the endowment. They've let their administrative expense get completely out of control, and now they're mismanaging their relationship with the university. The wrong thing to do with President Trump is to escalate. Look at what happened with China, where tariffs are. We're now in we're in DEFCON, 3, with respect to Harvard. So what did Harvard do? They just they didn't acknowledge anything that was correct in the letter from the administration, and then they turned around and they said definitively no, and then they sued the administration. My view is, and I think this is the view of most Americans, is that the federal government giving taxpayer money to a university is a privilege and not a right. And so what did the Trump administration ask for? They said, look, you need to reduce your administrative bloat, okay? Because, by the way, money is fungible, and maybe we're funding science projects, but but effectively we're funding your overhead expense. And you need to bring your overhead expense down. You have to if you're going to take money from the taxpayers, we have to know that there's no waste. And there's massive, massive waste at Harvard. If you look at the compound annual, I did a little PowerPoint buy, sell, or hold on Harvard, which you can find out there. But if you look at the compound annual growth rate and administrative expense and the FTEs, full-time equivalents of the administrators versus faculty, the admin expense goes up like this, and the faculty is basically flat. So it's, if you think about this as a business, it's a business where when I graduated from Harvard, there were 1,600 people in my class. And the business of Harvard is educating, that 1,600. Well, if you fast forward to today, the graduating class of 2024 had like 1,640 people in it. Okay, so the university grew 3% over 36 years. Can you tell me of any great business of which you are aware? By the way, that's not a 3% annual compound rate. That's a 3% rate. It's probably it's hard for me to do the math, but it's 0.0 something, 8% compounded annual growth over 40 years. So it's not, and think about the growth in the population over the period. Think about the percentage of foreign students that are going to Harvard now. So this institution, chartered, oldest corporation in America, to educate the future leaders of our country, is educating a tiny fraction of what it was chartered to do, kind of going back in time. And the federal funding to Harvard has continued to increase kind of over this sort of period of time. You've got a CEO who has very little control, i.e. the president, Alan Garber. He's got a workforce that he can't fire, tenure. He's got an endowment that has very little liquidity. And now he's just put himself in a horrible place vis-a-vis the administration, and he's at risk of losing the tax exemption. And so Harvard is in a very bad place. And what they should be doing is they should have immediately engaged with President Trump. We know that his negotiating strategy is to ask for, get the headlines with a crazy ask, and then he wants to make a deal. And they should have said, you're right, President Trump, we're hiring Alex Partners, or a restructuring firm, and we're going to do a zero-based budget of what the administrative expense of Harvard should look like. We're going to restructure our organization. You're right, we've done a horrible job protecting students from hate and allowing pro-terrorist protesters to interfere with education, and we're going to stop it now, and we're going to enforce our code of conduct, which Harvard has not done. Story just in the last week, the member of not the faculty, what's the number, kind of the student, like a PhD who teaches students?
Teaching fellow?
Teaching fellow. So there's a teaching fellow that physically attacked a Harvard Business School Jewish student who was walking by the protest. He just got a $65,000 stipend to study something, and he was given a very light. His sentence was 80 hours of community service. So they're not enforcing the rules. I mean, they'll throw someone out of the university and suspend them on the basis of a few too many drinks at a party. So Trump asked for protect your students, eliminate waste, and improve viewpoint diversity at the university. These were the principal asks, and they're entirely reasonable, and it needs to happen, and the university just completely shut it down. So You can argue with President Trump's negotiating strategy. You can say he's over the top, but he's fundamentally right in what he's asking for. And I think the taxpayers should only be funding universities that don't waste money, that have true viewpoint diversity, and create environments that are not anti-Semitic or hate-filled environments.
Yeah, yeah.